give a welcome speech. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dear respected astronaut of Gemini 12 and Apollo 11, and actually he is living legend. He is our hero. He is just in front of us. So first of all, I would like to request all of you to put big hand once again. And then here is Mr. Andrew Aldrin, who is the chairperson of colonization project in Mars during 30s. So I feel honored to get him here in front of us in this program. So once again, I would like to request you. And here is Mission Control Director, Christina Ko. Without her, it would not be possible because I have written so many emails and waited so many months. She replied and I request, again she replied, so many conversations through email has happened, and finally she convinced Buzz to visit Nepal. So she played a very vital role to bring Buzz Aldrin in front of us. That is why I want once more big hand for her. And Mrs. Maureen, she is also visiting Nepal first time, and she is daughter-in-law of our hero Buzz Aldrin. And here is Mr. Joseph LeBlanc. He is the payload manager of Orion project. Orion is just like a Apollo mission. Apollo mission was the mission for Moon, and Orion program is for the mission for Mars. So he sent our national flag into the deep space and brought back and gifted me so that I become available to present in front of you in our science center. That is the first flag never ever flown in the space. So once more, big hand for him. And Elizabeth LeBlanc, formerly she was exhibit manager, and now she works for NASA as a configuration specialist, senior scientist of NASA, and on 2013 she provided our science center the lunar sample, moon rock. So please give her very, very big hand. And during this session, I think we feel honored that such a brilliant, talented personalities of NASA and astronaut all are here accepting our request to visit Nepal. And during this presentation program, we have arranged some little translation in Nepali. So I'd like to tell something in Nepali because so many people also cannot understand English. र आदरणीय दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरू, यहाँ आज को आउनु भएको छ भनेर मैले भनिसकेँ। फेरि पनि नेपालीमा एकचोटि भनिदिन्छु कि उहाँ जेमिनाई 12 चढेर स्पेसमा जानुभएको र उहाँले आजकल हामी सेल्फी भनेर आफ्नो फोटो खिच्छौँ। He is the first person who started selfie in space. 50 वर्ष अगाडि नै सेल्फी खिच्नु भएको थियो स्पेसमा गएर। आज हामी खिच्दैछौँ, त्यसैले हामी कम्तीमा 50 वर्ष पछाडि रहेछौँ होइन। तर केही छैन, उहाँहरूको सहयोग भयो भने हामी अझै द्रुत गतिमा अगाडि बढ्न सक्छौँ। र त्यसपछि उहाँ चाहिँ अपोलो 11 चढेर, हामीले जहिले पनि याद गरेको छ नि, अपोलो 11 भनेको चन्द्रमामा मान्छे पहिले पाइला टेकेको रकेट हो, त्यो प्रोग्राम हो। त्यो अपोलो 11 चढेर 30 जना मान्छे जानुभएको थियो अन्तरिक्ष यात्रीहरू। एकजना उहाँ नै हुनुहुन्छ, बज एल्ड्रिन, एस्ट्रोनट बज एल्ड्रिन। अर्को नील आर्मस्ट्रङ, जो देहान्त भइसक्यो, जसको 4 वर्ष अगाडि 2012 मा। र अर्को एकजना जसले चन्द्रमामा पाइला चाहिँ टेक्नु भएन, माइकल कलिन। उहाँले चाहिँ खालि अर्बिटिङ गरिरहनु भयो मुनमा, त्यो मुनको चक्कर मात्रै काटिराख्नु भयो। र उहाँहरू अर्को ल्यान्डर भनेर लिएर तल ल्यान्ड गरेर 2.25 घन्टा चाहिँ स्याम्पलहरू कलेक्सन गरेर फेरि पृथ्वीमा फर्केर आउनुभयो। त्यो भनेको आजभन्दा 46 वर्ष अगाडिको कुरा हो। त्यसैले हामीले जहाँ अहिले पनि शिवजीलाई जल अर्पण गर्छौँ, शिवजीले हाम्रो चन्द्रमा लगाएको देख्छौँ, उहाँ चाहिँ त्यहाँ पुगेरै आइसक्नु भएको भनेपछि उहाँलाई हामीले धेरै कुरा सोध्न सक्छौँ कि शिवजीसित भेट भयो कि भएन। चन्द्रमा उहाँ त टाउकोमा चन्द्रमा लगाएको थियो, चन्द्रमामै पुगेर आउनुभयो होइन। धेरै जिज्ञासा हुनसक्छन् हामीसित। त्यस कारणले यो चाहिँ नेपालीमा पनि बिचबिचमा ट्रान्सलेट गरेर बताउने हाम्रो योजना छ। र आजको यस क्षण भनेको अर्को अचम्मको कुरा छ कि हामीले सीतागञ्जमा बस्ने मान्छेले विराटनगरमा घडेरै किन कति दुःख गर्नुपर्छ। बल्ल बल्ल 10 धुर भेटिन्छ कि 5 धुर भेटिन्छ, ठेगान छैन। तर उहाँले चाहिँ मङ्गल ग्रहमा घर बनाउने योजना बनाउनु भएको छ। मङ्गल ग्रह भनेको मार्स 30,000 किलोमिटर 30,000 किलोमिटर पर आवरको स्पिडमा रकेट उडेको गयो भने 6.5 महिना लाग्छ मङ्गल ग्रह पुग्न। त्यो भनेको कति हो भने यहाँदेखि अमेरिका जान कति लाग्छ? 25 घन्टा 26 घन्टा यस्तै लाग्छ। त्यो 10,000 किलोमिटर टाढा छ। अब रकेटले के गर्छ? एकचोटि अमेरिका पुग्यो, फेरि नेपाल आयो, फेरि अमेरिका 1 घन्टामा पुग्छ। 3 चोटि ओहोरदोहोर गर्छ 1 घन्टामा, त्यति स्पिडमा जान्छ। त्यस्तो ठाउँमा गएर मङ्गल ग्रहमा बस्ती बसाउँछु भन्ने महापुरुष यहाँ हुनुहुन्छ। र हामीहरू कल्पनाभन्दा धेरै माथिको कुरा हो। जतिखेर हामी चन्द्रमामा हेरेर अहिले पनि औँसी लाग्यो भने बोक्सी लाग्छ र झाँक्रीले फुक्ने दुनियाँ चलन छ हामीसित, कि होइन? भूत प्रेत दुनियाँ कहानी हामीसित जोडिएका छन्। तर उहाँहरू त्यति नै खेर चन्द्रमामा पुगिसक्नुभयो। अहिले मङ्गल ग्रह जाँदै हुनुहुन्छ। र अब कसैलाई मङ्गल ग्रहमा घडेरी चाहिएको छ भने एकछिनपछि रिक्वेस्ट गर्दा हुन्छ। र अब यति भन्ने म धेरै समय लिन चाहन्न, किनभने उहाँहरूको फ्लाइट अहिले 6 बजे काठमाडौँ फर्किने प्लेन छ। त्यस कारणले उहाँहरू काठमाडौँमा एउटा कार्यक्रम छ पर्सि 8 तारिक र 9 तारिकमा उहाँ अमेरिकन राजदूतावासले उहाँहरूको सम्मानमा कार्यक्रम आयोजना गरेको छ र बेलुका उहाँहरू फिर्ता जानुहुन्छ। त्यसैले यहाँहरू सबैजना यस्तो बाटो खराब भएको भए तापनि, पानी पर्ने सम्भावना अगाडि भएको भए तापनि आफ्नो स्टुडेन्टहरू ल्याएर सरहरू आउनुभयो, पत्रकार साथीहरूले धेरै कोअपरेसन गर्नुभयो। सबैजनालाई यहाँ धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद भन्दै म बिदा लिन चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर। Before I would like to call stage उहाँलाई बोलाउनु अगाडि म केही कुरा भन्न चाहन्छु। Exploration wired into our brains. If you can see the horizon, we want to know what's beyond. This is not my saying, it's said by Buzz Aldrin. Please welcome again. Now I would like to call Mr. Joseph LeBlanc for his a very memorable speech in front of us. So, Joseph LeBlanc, please welcome him once again.
So I think they're setting up my slides for a movie. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit and spend a little time, give them some time to get set up. My name is Joe LeBlanc. I work for NASA in Houston, Texas. I am the program payload manager. And for Exploration Flight Test 1, our very first flight for Orion, we flew several items. One of them was the Nepali flag that Dilip spoke about earlier. So we flew about 180 pounds of cargo on that flight, and one of those was the flag. As we move forward for Exploration Mission 1, which will be our first flight to the moon, we'll circle the moon, we'll expect to fly about 300 pounds or about 500 kilograms of payload on that flight, followed by the first human flight, perhaps going farther than any other human-rated space vehicle has flown before. So, how are we doing? Great. So what we're going to see here is in the next chart, in the next slide, is a little video showing what we did for Exploration Flight Test 1 in December of 2014.
Passed through Apogee. The altitude was 3,132 nautical miles.
So that was a brief overview of our very first flight test. We were very successful. Of the 55 points that we wanted to hit, we hit all of them. We were very successful in our very first flight, and that was Exploration Flight Test 1. Our next flight is EM1, Exploration Mission 1. That will take place in September or October of 2018, in 2 years from now. So to talk a little bit more about Exploration Flight Test 1, we have the launch abort system on the very top on re-entry. The upper stage that pushes us out of low Earth orbit and onto Mars or the Moon. And then you can see the Delta IV Heavy for Exploration Flight Test 1 was our lifting vehicle to get us out of Earth's environment and into space. Exploration Flight Test 1, EFT-1, flew 2 revolutions around the Earth in about 4 hours and 20 minutes. So that's at an altitude of 3,100 miles, or about 5,000 kilometers above the Earth at its highest point. Upon re-entry, we experienced aero heating on the crew module of around 20,000 degrees Fahrenheit before splashing down off the coast of Baja California, just a little west of the United States. The next chart. So throughout the flight, we had 17 separation events. The launch abort system came off. You saw the fairings as they deployed. The boosters fell away, the center core fell away, and eventually we were left with what you see in the top right corner. And that was what continued throughout the mission, right up until re-entry profile. And we had 17 major separation events. The first one started at a little more than 6 minutes into the flight, and then they were staged all throughout upon re-entry. The heat shield was only an inch, about 4 centimeters thick, so that the temperatures outside reached about 4,000 degrees upon re-entry, which is about half the temperature of the sun. So the aero heating outside and the temperature inside was about 4,000 degrees difference, separated by this much heat shield. So the technology advancements that we've made on EFT-1 that we will continue to provide on Orion are unfathomable as far as the advances we've made in the last 50 years. The radiation protection. We measured radiation inside the crew module as we flew through the Van Allen belt, which is the radiation shield that the core of the Earth provides that protects us from the solar radiation and deep space cosmic radiation. So, and then we had 11 parachutes that slowed the vehicle down from falling through the atmosphere. So we had 11 parachutes come out and slow us down from about 500 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, or about 32 kilometers per hour, before we splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. And the Delta IV Heavy was our launch vehicle that we chose for Exploration Flight Test 1. It is provided to us by United Launch Alliance, and it performed beautifully, just as we needed it to perform for the first flight. So if you go to the next chart. And this is right at separation, right at launch. So it starts really slow and then begins to pick up speed at about 2 kilometers in elevation high from the ground. We're traveling at about 600 miles an hour at about 200 meters. But by the time we get to 2 kilometers, we're traveling about 3,000 miles an hour. So it's the acceleration that the vehicle has to go through is quite amazing. These are some of the panels that come off. These panels are on the vehicle and protect it protect the service module as we ascend through the atmosphere. And then we jettison those panels, we throw them off as we don't need them, so we don't need to carry that weight throughout the flight. And then you saw the upper stage pushing away the launch vehicle. So this, you can see the Earth at the bottom and the space above. So you can see the curvature. And this is re-entry, so you can see the aero heating, that's plasma. As we're sliding through the atmosphere, that's superheated gas sliding past the vehicle, slowing us down. We're converting energy from heat, and that is slowing the vehicle down as we fall through the atmosphere. And you can watch as the temperature changes, you can see the color change from red to yellow when we experience our maximum heating as we descend through the atmosphere. You can see the vehicle kind of rolling and tilting, and that is Orion steering through the atmosphere, burning off energy, trying to slow down so that we can start throwing out parachutes. You can see we're going to roll almost all the way over as we're banking, sliding back the other direction. We flip all the way over. As we continue to descend through the atmosphere, this is 4 hours and 18 minutes into the flight. And the white puffs of smoke are roll control system. Those are small rocket engines that are firing to control the vehicle's attitude as we get ready to deploy parachutes. There's our forward bay cover, comes off, exposes our parachutes. So we had 3 parachutes, there's 2 more. These are our drogues. We ride the drogue parachutes until we slow down to about 150 miles an hour. Those 2 drogues cut away. We have 3 parachutes, 3 small parachutes that pull out the very large 120-foot diameter parachutes. So Buzz, that ought to look pretty familiar. 3 as well. 3 on Apollo as well. And we are slowing down to about 30 kilometers per hour as we fall and approach the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. See that we passed through the clouds and we're continuing to descend, we're continuing to fall. Just a couple of more seconds, you'll see water splash and the parachutes will go slack. They will loosen and flatten out and fall away as we are floating in the Pacific Ocean. There's the splash, parachutes are cut away, and now we're floating, we're back on Earth. 4 hours and 24 minutes of flight. This is what Orion looks like as we splash down. And we have the United States Navy recovering the vehicle, recovering the crew module. So they tie some lanyards around the side and they tow it to the boat, to the ship. So this ship is really interesting. In the back of the ship opens up and it submerges down into the water. And it allows Orion to float into the back, and the ship closes the door on the back, pushes the water out of inside, and raises up underneath Orion and captures her inside. So if you go to the next chart, so there it is. that whole ship sinks down into the water, and then we can float Orion inside onto a cradle, and then we close the hatch on the back, push the water out, the ship rises around it, and cradles Orion in the cargo bay. So that was Exploration Flight Test 1. Thank you. Exploration Mission 1 is our next flight. That will take place, again, in 2 years. Go to the next chart. So it's our first flight with the SLS, the Space Launch System, that NASA is also providing for us instead of the Delta IV Heavy that we used on Exploration Flight Test 1. So for EM1, Exploration Mission 1, we'll take off from Florida, from Cape Canaveral, from Kennedy Space Center. We will fly 2 revolutions, a revolution and a half, leaving Earth. We will transition to the moon, and we'll fly several revolutions around the moon, and then one really high revolution, and at the very farthest away from the moon, on the very right-hand side, that's when we return to Earth. That's when we start to make our return, our free return trajectory. Right. So we'll swing by the moon. We'll use the moon's gravity and our engines to fire and push us away from the moon and send us back home, which will take about 3 days. Come back home and splash down in the same place right off the coast of Baja, California, in the Pacific Ocean. Next chart. So this is the configuration for Orion. We have the crew module up top, where 4 crew members will sit. We can fly, again, up to 6. Nominally, on a normal mission, we will fly 4. We have the crew module adapter that attaches the service module to the crew module. The European service module is the white portion. That is provided to us by the European Space Agency, of which I am the deputy manager for that portion of the vehicle. And then we have the panels that cover that up for ascent, and then the spacecraft adapter that attaches Orion to the lift vehicle, to the launch vehicle. Next chart. So as we continue to develop and build our next vehicle for EM1, this was the forward bulkhead. If you go back a chart, at the very top, that's where the docking mechanism is, and under that docking mechanism, if you go forward again, the docking mechanism fits right on top of that barrel, on top of the green portion there, and then that's the docking vestibule or the docking tunnel to the forward bulkhead inside the crew module. So we completed that well last year, about this time last year, and since then we have started to assemble the crew module in Florida at the Kennedy Space Center. You go to the next chart. This is the aft bulkhead where the heat shield attaches. So the heat shield is what protects the astronauts and the crew members from re-entry heating. So as we descend through the atmosphere, that heat shield protects the crew members from that aero heating. Next chart. This is the barrels. So the barrel section, the heat shield, the aft bulkhead attaches to the bottom. And then there's cone panels that attach to the top. And then the forward bulkhead and that ring fit on top of that. You can go forward. There's a good view of the cone panels. There are 3 of those cone panels. They're 120 degrees each. And 3 of them fit on top of the barrel to make the cone of the crew module. This is the crew module adapter that the European service module will attach to at the bottom, and then the crew module fits on top. Next chart. So we also have to do a lot of avionics and software testing, and we don't want to experience any software issues on orbit during flight. So we have an integrated test lab in Denver, Colorado, where we check out, or we functionally test all of our software and our avionics systems throughout the flight. So we'll run a real mission from a software perspective in this vehicle that never launches. It stays in Denver, Colorado. This is the heat shield mock-up. So we have a series of tests to try to optimize or find better ways to assemble the heat shield. And that's what this is for. You can see that we have simple panels that we're trying to plug in and to understand how we can simplify manufacturing and assembly through this test article. And this is part of the launch abort system. So you can see the rockets on the side. Those rockets fit on top of that looks like a straw on the far right. It's a long tube that fits on top of the crew module. That launch abort system pulls away the crew module in case the rocket is having a problem or is starting to fail. The next chart. So there are many ways to reach out to NASA and Lockheed Martin to get more information. There's we have Facebook, Twitter feeds, Flickr, Google Plus Hangouts all the time, Instagrams. If you would like to contact any of us, there's many ways to reach us through the internet. And this is what Orion will look like for Exploration Mission 1 coming up as we fly to the moon in 2 years. So Orion is only one part of what we need to get to the moon and to stay on the moon, to build a long-term presence, and to go to Mars and build a long-term presence there. Orion is just one small part of what we need to get there and stay, and to bring people home again, so they can teach new people, new astronauts, train new people, get experiences, and of course carry new crew members, new astronauts back into space. So with that, so that's an overview of Orion. I hope you enjoyed it.
एक्चुअली फेरि म यहाँलाई हामीले भनेका थियौँ केही कुराहरू नेपालीमा पनि हामी बताउने कोसिस गर्छौँ, तर उहाँले बोलिरहेको बेलामा बिचमा रोक्दै नेपाली भन्दाखेरि उहाँको पनि कुरो पुग्दैन, हामीलाई पनि बुझाउन सक्दैनौँ। त्यस कारणले अघि यहाँले जे देख्नुभयो ओरायन भनेको यही हो। यसैमा मान्छे चढेर चन्द्रमामा के अरे मङ्गल ग्रहमा जाने भनेको यही हो। यसलाई माथिसम्म पठाउनको लागि विभिन्न इन्जिनहरू रकेटहरू हुन्छ, त्यो ठाउँ ठाउँमा पड्किँदै माथि ठेल्दै जान्छ, तर मेन मान्छे बस्ने मोडल यो हो। यसलाई ओरायन भनिन्छ र त्यसैको चाहिँ उहाँ डिजिएम हुनुहुन्छ यो प्रोग्रामको, र नेपालको झन्डा उहाँले त्यही भित्र हालेर पठाउनु भएको थियो र जुन हामीलाई दिनुभएको छ यहाँले आएर त्यहाँ हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। र अघि उहाँले भन्नुभएको कुरो के भने सर्टकटमा म यहाँलाई राख्दैछु कि अब 2 वर्षभित्रमा उहाँको योजना चन्द्रमामा पुग्नेछ। फेरि यो अहिले जुन मैले देखाएँ ओरायन, त्यही ओरायन चढेर चन्द्रमामा त्यसलाई चाहिँ धेरै चक्कर चन्द्रमालाई लगाएर त्यहाँ ल्यान्ड गर्ने होइन, अनि फेरि पृथ्वीमा आउने 2018मा 2018 अहिले 16 चल्दैछ, 16 को सेप्टेम्बर सकिन लाग्यो, 16, 17 र 18 2 वर्षमा उहाँहरू चन्द्रमालाई चक्कर लगाउनुहुन्छ। पहिले चन्द्रमासम्म गएको थियो, अहिले चाहिँ चन्द्रमालाई चक्कर लगाएर धेरै टाढासम्म गएर फेरि फर्केर आउने हो। त्यति गरिसकेपछि के प्रमाणित हुन्छ भने मङ्गल ग्रहमा जानको लागि त्यो ओरायन चाहिँ सक्सेसफुल छ भन्ने कुरो प्रुभ भएपछि बल्ल मान्छे बस्ने हो। नभएदेखि त्यसले कति टेम्परेचर कति हिट चाहिँ त्यसले सहन सक्छ सक्दैन त्यसको पत्ता लगाउनको लागि उहाँहरूले 2014 डिसेम्बर 5 तारिकको दिन नेपालको झन्डासहित त्यसलाई उडाउनु भएको थियो र त्यसले पृथ्वीमा फर्किँदाखेरि अघि देख्यो नि प्यारासुटमा यसो झुन्डिँदै झरेको, त्यसरी नै झर्छ। मान्छे त्यहाँ बसे पनि झार्ने तरिका त्यही हो, तर माथिबाट पृथ्वीको ग्राभिटीले तान्दाखेरि, गुरुत्वाकर्षण शक्तिले तान्दाखेरि त्यो चाहिँ 30,000 किलोमिटर प्रति घन्टाभन्दा बढीको रफ्तारमा आउँछ पृथ्वीतिर। त्यो आइसकेपछि त्यसलाई प्रशान्त महासागरमा माथि 11वटा प्यारासुट खुल्यो, त्यसपछि आएर फेरि 3वटा खुल्यो। त्यसो गर्दाखेरि 30 किलोमिटर प्रति घन्टाको रफ्तारमा तल आएर ठ्याक्क पानीमा लाग्दछ। अनि त्यसपछि एउटा पानी जहाज जस्तोले आएर यसलाई यसरी उभाएर चाहिँ माथि निकाल्यो र त्यहाँ भएका मान्छेलाई त्यसरी रेस्क्यु गरिन्छ। त्यसको सक्सेसफुल मिसन 2 वर्ष अगाडि भयो र 18मा चाहिँ उहाँहरूले फेरि चन्द्रमामा पठाउँदै हुनुहुन्छ। त्यो पठाइसकेपछि प्रमाणित हुन्छ कि अब मान्छे बसेर मङ्गल ग्रहतिर गयो भनेदेखि समस्या हुँदैन। त्यो ओरानले मान्छेलाई सेफली पुर्याउँछ भन्ने भएपछि बल्ल मान्छे चढेर पठाउने हो। र त्यो मैले अघि नै भनिहालेँ, मङ्गल ग्रहमा जानको लागि 6 महिना कम्तीमा लाग्छ। 30,000 किलोमिटर कम्तीमा 25,000 किलोमिटर प्रति घन्टाको रफ्तारले उड्दाखेरि र 6 महिना लाग्छ। र मलाई मङ्गल ग्रहमा बस्नै मन लागेन, घरको खुब याद आयो, फर्किनु पऱ्यो भन्यो भने अर्को 6 महिनामा फर्किँदैन। त्यो मङ्गल ग्रह पृथ्वी जति नजिक हुँदाखेरि उड्या त्यो अलिक टाढा पुगिसक्छ। फेरि नजिक हुन्जेलसम्म वेट गर्नुपर्छ, अर्को गाडी पर्खे जस्तै 2 वर्ष पर्खिनुपर्छ। बल्ल 2 वर्षपछि नजिक आउँछ अनि फेरि उडेर यतातिर आउने, टोटल 3 वर्ष लाग्छ। त्यसैले त्यो 3 वर्षको लागि जाने जुन प्लान हो त्यसमा चाहिँ बस्तीको विकास गर्ने अघि हाम्रो अध्यक्षज्यू यहीँ हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँको कुराहरू अब उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ। त्यसपछि मैले यसको छोटो ट्रान्सलेसन गरेँ र अब सञ्जय कोइरालाजीलाई म माग्छु।
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to call Mrs. Elizabeth Leblanc for her speech. She was the exhibit manager of NASA, and now she is the configuration specialist as well as she does research on spacesuit. So I would like to call Mrs. Elizabeth Leblanc. जोरदार तालीको साथ स्वागत गर्नुहोस्।
There we go. That's a whole lot better. Sorry. Hi, Nepal. I'm so excited to be back. I can't even begin to tell you. I'm so excited. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about spacesuits. A little different than what I did last time. First off, for those of you that don't know me, who am I? So, I grew up right next to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I lived in an area where my next door neighbors were astronauts, men that walked on the moon. I had no idea that that wasn't normal, that not everybody in the world lived next to Apollo astronauts. I didn't get it. Growing up, I thought, you can be a teacher. That's a good thing to be. You could be a garbage man. That's a good thing to be, right? You could be an astronaut. You could work in a factory. It all seemed like the same thing to me. I had no idea what it took to become an astronaut. It wasn't until I got a lot older and I started coming and talking to folks, and I worked for NASA, that I realized just how cool that is and how unusual that is. But I didn't get my beginnings growing up next to NASA. I started as an orphan with no parents, no money, as a baby. That may sound kind of similar to some of you. And I've come from that to working at NASA. Anyone can do it, everyone can do it. So my current role is that I am a configuration specialist. What the heck is that, right? So basically, my job is to make sure that we know exactly what we have on our next space vehicle, Orion, which you just heard Joe talk about. I left being the exhibits manager, which was one heck of a cool job. But I left that to come do this because I wanted to be a part of our next vehicle that's going to go to the moon and then to Mars. So again, exhibit manager. I came here last time as the exhibit manager. That was a lot of fun. I got to bring a moon rock here. That was so cool. Unfortunately, it was not a moon rock that Buzz picked up. It was on a different mission, but that's okay. And before that, I worked in spacesuits. So the majority of my career at NASA has been working on the development of our next spacesuit. Why? Because our spacesuits are old. They're older than me. And if I'm old, then that's really old. So I've spent almost my whole time. So spacesuits is a huge passion of mine. Huge. Sure. So let's talk about space suits. Next. Okay. This is a line drawing of what our current spacesuit out on the space station looks like. We call it the Extravehicular Mobility Unit. EVA suit, extravehicular activities. So spacesuits are about 3/16 of an inch thick in general. Suits have up to 11 layers of material. That's a lot of material. Anybody here have any ideas why we might need so many different layers? Yeah? Well, we need one layer to keep us cool. We need another layer that keeps us warm. We have a layer to keep all the oxygen inside. We have layers to prevent cutting of our spacesuits. We have layers to stop, kind of stop radiation. We're still working on that. But we have lots and lots of layers. So the amount of air inside a spacesuit at any one time differs a little bit between the size of the spacesuit and the size of our astronaut. Because we don't just make one suit and hope that it fits everybody. We try to make a spacesuit just for a person. Our goal in the future is to have one suit that we can take parts and pieces and put them all together to make it a lot easier for us to be able to fit all sorts of sizes of astronauts, from very, very tiny to very, very large. It'll hold about 5.42 cubic feet of air total, and the extra small size for little, like our smallest women astronauts, hold about 4.3 cubic feet. With the astronaut inside the suit though, that goes down to only about 2 cubic feet. So you can tell that the person takes up a lot of that airspace. Next chart. So here are all the different parts of a spacesuit. That big piece that you see up on the top here, the primary life support subsystem, that's our most important part. Because without that, we don't breathe. That's what keeps the astronaut inside alive. The other parts, the upper torso, the arms, the gloves, the helmet, and the lower torso assembly, that's kind of what you see on an astronaut all the time. Inside the suit, we have a drink bag. Because you think about it, if an EVA, if you're outside of the spaceship for 8 hours, you gotta drink, right? I mean, you can't go that long without water. So we have to have a way for our astronauts to drink. And then we also have to have a way for our astronaut to have control of the spacesuit. Because in reality, a spacesuit is almost the same thing as its own space vehicle. The only difference is, from Orion, is it only has one person inside. And right now, we don't have any propulsion. I mean, you can't launch a spacesuit, right? So those are your differences. Next chart. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the history of spacesuits and why we need a new one. Next one. All right, so we have a really long history with spacesuits. It started with just pressure garments that would be worn by our pilots to be able to go higher and faster. And from there, we started to develop a spacesuit. With Gemini, we were building upon the success of those pressure suits, and we tried to launch our most ambitious flight to date, which was Gemini 4, June 1965, and they were going to go outside the space vehicle, and that was huge. That was huge. Ed White did his first EVA just about 50 years ago, 51 now, so pretty cool. He became the first American to venture outside, and I say that as American because that's key. We actually had a Soviet cosmonaut go outside before us, but Ed White was the first for America, and his EVA, his activities outside the spaceship lasted 20 minutes. Very short. When you think about now, we're talking about going out onto the surface of Mars, and we're going to be working out there. We could have EVAs last up to 8 hours or more. Okay, next chart. So there he is. That was him outside in his suit. Very successful EVA by all intents and purposes. One problem that the suit had, though, is as soon as he got outside the vehicle, what do you think happens to a spacesuit in the vacuum of space? Anybody have any ideas? If you don't build any structure into the spacesuit puffs up. And when the spacesuit puffs up like a balloon because it's full of air and there's no air outside, it makes that suit really stiff. You can't move. Not well, anyway. It takes a lot of work. You have to press really hard against that suit to do anything at all. So we tried to get a better suit for Buzz when he went to walk on the moon. We thought, okay, we need something that doesn't, end up making someone look like this. And so we thought we did a pretty good job until we got them on the moon. So the moon has only 1/6 the gravity of Earth. So you don't weigh nearly as much on the moon as you would here. So the fact that this spacesuit is about 250 pounds or more is not as big a deal as it would be here, but it's still pretty heavy. We incorporated a lot of new and innovative materials, synthetic materials instead of something like cotton or stuff that we've had in the past. We made new boots, we made new gloves, we made a new helmet, we did the whole thing. Next chart. So here was what happened though when these guys, our heroes, got out on the surface of the moon. Can you play the video? We'll play. Okay, so this is Charlie Duke out on the surface of the moon, hammering, right? Something that you would think would be a normal thing that we should anticipate him being able to do. And then, in just a second, he's struggling to hold on to the hammer. Why do you think he's struggling to hold that hammer? Those gloves, not so good at not puffing up. It made it really, really hard. Uh-oh, what happened? Now how's he gonna get it? Okay, he's gonna try over here. Oh, nope, missed it. He's gonna try again. Oh, can't get there. What do you think's going on? His knees won't bend. So he really forces himself down there and then he's able to pick it up. Okay. So we realized really quick that our tough stuff spacesuit might need a little more work. Okay. Next chart. So we got to building a spacesuit to go out onto the International Space Station. How many of you here know what the International Space Station is? A few of you? Cool. Okay, so the International Space Station is essentially a space vehicle, or, however you want to call it, capsule, but it's as big as a football field, a soccer field. It's that big. And it has been circling our Earth now for 15 years with 6 astronauts from countries all over the world. And they go up, and they stay about 6 months, and they come down. And in fact, we just had an astronaut stay for a whole year up there. So I bet you all had no idea that every day you have astronauts looking at you from way up there. Okay, so we needed to build a spacesuit to be able to build and assemble the space station. What we learned real quick though was, hey, the fact that poor Charlie Duke couldn't bend his knees actually is a good thing when you're trying to do work on a space station, because that lets you press against the suit to be able to build things, right? So if you're working in the vacuum of space and maybe your legs are attached to the space vehicle so that you don't float away, and you want to twist something like a bolt or a nut, and you want to build, if you don't have something here to support yourself, it makes it really hard, because every time you try to twist one way, your body tries to go the other. It's physics, right? Equal opposite force. So this is good, but it won't get us to Mars. It's a great suit. It'll last up to 8 hours of EVA. It does really pretty good job. But that's not, not moving your legs. Again, that's not going to work for us to go to Mars. Next chart. Sound. Where's the sound?
The moments of this millennium, if not the signature moment, and I think spacewalks play a huge part in that. Do the Spacewalk is an incredibly choreographed ballet that really starts with training many days, months before you actually do the event. And we have a team of folks that care about the task, so they put together sort of the roadmap of how this is going to be done. We have a team that cares about the suit and the system, so that means the tools as well as the spacesuit itself and the process of getting into and out of it. And then we spend a lot of time practicing that in the NDL. What amazes me most about the spacesuit is that it is able to protect a human being from all of the things that would kill it. The lack of oxygen, the lack of an atmosphere, i.e. pressure, the radiation, all of those things are mortal in their own right. And this relatively small little vehicle can hold us inside it and still allow us incredible dexterity to be able to do very minute tasks with our hands and as well as move large masses around. Hi, I'm Michael Lopez Alegria. Suit up with NASA for the journey to Mars.
Okay, next chart. So what's our next steps, right? We're going to Mars. We are definitely going to put people on Mars. Next one. So, what are we going to have to do to get there? Well, there's a lot of differences between what the Apollo suits were versus what we're going to need for future exploration. We need, back in Apollo, you could send a suit up with the astronauts. It's going to be on the surface of the moon for 3 days, maybe. And then it's got to come home. And we can service it, and we can fix it, and we can repair it. We can try it in different ways. Scientific method. We use the same scientific method to build spacesuits, to build the space vehicle, as you would in your science classrooms. And next chart. And that's it. So thank you guys. I was so excited to be back. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for a very interesting presentation. दर्शक महानुभावहरू यहाँलाई उहाँले भन्नुभएको स्पेस सुटको बारेमा के भन्नुभयो त्यसको बारेमा सानो ब्रिफिङ म गर्न चाहन्छु। स्पेस सुट भनेको के हो भनेपछि स्पेसमा जाँदाखेरि लाउने, चन्द्रमामा जाँदाखेरि लगाउने स्पेसल सुट हो। त्यो सुटभित्र के हुन्छ भनेपछि त्योभित्र सबै सिस्टम हुन्छ। जस्तै प्यास लाग्यो, पानी खानु पर्यो, हेलमेट यसो खोलेर घटघट पिउन पाइँदैन। हेलमेट खोल्यो कि मरियो, किनभने हाई रेडिएसन हुन्छ, हाई टेम्परेचर हुन्छ, मान्छे मर्छ। भनेपछि प्यास लागे पनि त्यहीँभित्र पानी हुनु पर्यो। सास फेर्नको लागि अक्सिजनको व्यवस्था पनि त्यही हुनु पर्यो। कार्बन डाइअक्साइड हामीले फ्याँक्छौँ, त्यसको व्यवस्थापन पनि त्यहीँभित्र हुनु पर्यो। साथसाथै अब पिसाब लाग्दा पिसाब गर्नु पर्यो, त्यसको व्यवस्था पनि त्यही हुनु पर्यो। सबै चिजको व्यवस्था त्यहीँभित्र हुनु पर्यो। त्यसो गर्नाले यसको वेट बढेको बढ्दै जान्छ र अहिलेसम्मको स्पेस सुटको वेट चाहिँ लगभग 180 किलो 85 किलोको हुन्छ। तपाईँ आफै विचार गर्नु, 180-85 किलोग्रामको सुट लगाइदियो भने मान्छे के छ, 2 बोरा चामलले थिचे जस्तो गरेर ढल्छ होइन। त्यो पनि सानो बोरा होइन, 100 केजीको 2टा बोराले थिच्दा मान्छे के हालत हुन्छ। त्यत्रै चिज लगाएर अनि कसरी ट्रेनिङ गर्ने त भनेपछि संसारको सबैभन्दा ठुलो स्विमिङ पुल नासामा छ। त्यो 40 फिट गहिरो छ। त्यो 40 फिट मुनि पानीमा छिरेपछि पानीले माथि ठेल्छ र वेट हलुको हुन्छ। अनि बल्ल त्यहाँ प्र्याक्टिस गर्ने हो। प्र्याक्टिस गर्दाखेरि स्पेस सुटले नै थिच्यो, एस्ट्रोनट उठ्नै सकेन भने 40 फिट मुनि अर्को समस्या हुन्छ। त्यस कारणले 4 जना गाइडहरू हुन्छन् त्यहाँ ट्रेनिङ दिने। यति गरेर ट्रेनिङ लिइसकेपछि स्पेसमा जाँदा के हुन्छ त, स्पेसमा ग्राभिटी 0 हुन्छ। त्यहाँ केही पनि कुराको वेट नै हुँदैन। तपाईँले चाहनुभयो भने एक ट्रक त्यो चामल एक्लै तानेर हिँड्न सक्नुहुन्छ स्पेसमा। त्यहाँ त्यसको वेट नै हुँदैन, वेट नभएपछि सजिलै तान्न सक्यो, बोक्न सक्यो। त्यसैले यहाँ सर्ट प्यान्ट लगाए जस्तै गरी आनन्दले स्पेस सुट लगाएर चाहिँ सुई हिँडेर स्पेसमा काम गर्न सकिन्छ। त्यसको लागि स्पेसल डिजाइन गर्नु पऱ्यो। पहिले अपोलो 11मा देख्नुभयो, त्यहाँ झन्डा गाड्ने बेलामा उहाँहरूलाई कति गाह्रो भएको रहेछ कि ह्यामरले हिर्काउँदा ह्यामर उछिटिएर झऱ्यो, तर त्यो टिप्न सकिँदैन किनभने निहुरी नै मिलेन, सबै भित्र हावाले भरिएको छ। अनि ग्रुप उफ्रेर चाहिँ यता गर्दा पो हुन्छ कि उता गर्दा पो हुन्छ कि भने अहिलेको भिडियोमा देख्नुभयो। त्यो क्लिप्सहरू देखाएको चाहिँ अब अहिले चाहिँ उहाँले अघि पलेटीमा आएर बसे जस्तै बस्न सकिने किसिमको उहाँले बनाइसक्नु भएको छ र अझै राम्रो बनाउनको लागि कोसिस गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ र मङ्गल ग्रहमा जानको लागि नयाँ किसिमको स्पेसल व्यवस्था भएको सुट हुनु पर्यो, जुन लगाउन पनि सजिलो होस्, टिकाउ पनि होस्, ज्यादै भरपर्दो पनि होस्। 100औं डिग्री टेम्परेचरमा पनि त्यो बाहिर निस्किँदा त्यसले केही असर नगरोस्, नेगेटिभ असर, त्यस्तो किसिमको काम उहाँले गरिराख्नु भएको छ र त्यो कुरो नै उहाँले अघि आफ्नो प्रेजेन्टेसनमा देखाउनुभयो र मैले मोटामोटी कुराहरू यहाँलाई जानकारी गराइसकेँ। अब यसपछि मङ्गल ग्रहमा हामीलाई घडेरी चाहिएको छ भने तयार हुने, उहाँ आउनेवाला हुनुहुन्छ ल। अब एकचोटि उहाँलाई स्वागत गरेर उहाँले बोलाउनु हुन्छ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to call our other guest, Dr. Andrew Aldrin, is the president of Moon Express Mars 2014, director of Buzz Aldrin Space Institute, and associate professor of Florida Institute of Technology. Andrew, sir, please.
Thank you very much. So, I'm actually the executive director of the Buzz Aldrin Space Institute, which means technically I'm his boss. He's just a senior advisor. But I know he's a boss, and I also know he wants to get on the screen. He wants to get up here and talk about what he's doing. So if we can get the charts up. What I wanted to start out by talking about was some of the things that we're doing at Florida Institute of Technology. And you know, what Joe and Beth talked about was big space, the amazing things that NASA's doing. And it's incredible what we're doing. But NASA's budget is about $19 billion a year. That's about 2 trillion Nepalese rupee, 2 trillion Nepalese, a stack of 2 trillion Nepalese rupee would be about this high from the floor. That's a lot of money. And so you wonder, what can a small country like Nepal do in space? I spent a few days in Peru recently talking with people in Peru about the very same question. And there are very real things that individual universities, that small nations can do in space. And I want to talk about some of those things right now. First of all, I want to start by 3 things that have happened recently in space that I think have fundamentally changed the cost of space. What used to cost billions of dollars can now be done for maybe thousands of dollars. Orders of magnitude changes in the cost. It means that it's conceivable that Nepal could build its own spacecraft. And I'll talk about some of the things that we're doing at a university that are very similar to that. So next chart, please. So the first thing that's happening are changes in finance and the very structure of the space industry. Now, I used to run a company called Moon Express. We built a rocket engine, as an example, in about 4 months for about maybe $100,000. The typical way that large aerospace companies would build rocket engines, nothing against Lockheed, Joe, the typical way that we would build rocket engines would cost probably hundreds of millions of dollars. We did it in 4 months. Now, it was a smaller engine. It was a very different approach to doing things. Maybe it was much simpler. But the point is, you can do things much more quickly. And these companies are doing it that way. They are building spacecraft, they're building rockets for orders of magnitude less than what it costs today. Now, most of these spacecraft And most of these rockets are very, very much smaller than the Orion, than the Delta IV Heavy, orders of magnitude smaller. But nevertheless, you can do things small in space that are very significant. The next chart, please. Miniaturization. The spacecraft that used to weigh tons now weigh a few kilograms. These are spacecraft that are being built by Planet Labs. They're very small. They are being built for maybe a few $1,000s a piece. And these spacecraft are flying over the Earth today, taking pictures of the Earth. Those kind of spacecraft used to cost hundreds of millions of dollars in the past. So we're doing things very differently due to miniaturization. Next chart. Globalization. So today there are more than 50 nations with space programs. 50 nations. It wasn't very long ago that there were 3. The number of nations developing their own space capabilities is changing by orders of magnitude. Now, sometimes nations aren't actually building spacecraft. Most of the really interesting things that happen in space today happen on the ground. You receive data from spacecraft. You process the images. You do the software. In fact, most of the real money that's made in space, in fact, over 2/3 of the money which is made in commercial space isn't made with the spacecraft, it's with the data on the ground. And so nations today that are coming into the space program are often not even developing spacecraft, they're developing ground systems. So I'll go back to Peru. When we were talking with Peru.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew, providing this special offer to our student to participate in the program in the future in Florida Tech. Thank you very, very much. अब अलिकति उहाँले गरेको कुरा नेपालीमा भनौँ, उहाँले अहिले आफ्नो मङ्गल ग्रहको बारेमा उहाँले गर्दै गरेको कामको बारेमा उहाँले जानकारी गराउनुभयो र अहिलेसम्म जति पनि रकेटहरू बनाइए, ट्रेनिङ दिए, ती धेरै ठुल्ठुला र अरबौँ डलर पर्ने किसिमका थिए भने उहाँले साना साना रकेट स्टुडेन्टहरूलाई बनाएर त्यसको प्रोजेक्ट वर्कहरू गराएर त्योबाट धेरै कुरो सिकाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने कन्सेप्टमा उहाँहरू अगाडि बढ्नुभएको छ। र अघि नै उहाँले चाहिँ भन्नुभयो कि मङ्गल ग्रहमा मान्छे पठाउने बारेमा चाहिँ अघि मैले यहाँ आएर भनेको थिएँ 3 वर्ष कम्तीमा लाग्छ, किनभने 6 महिना जान 6 महिना आउन 2 वर्ष पर्खिन। त्यस कारणले अब भविष्यमा हुन सक्दछ कोही अब ढुक्कै उतैतिर बसेर पर्मानेन्ट सेटलमेन्ट गर्ने हो कि या यसलाई कसरी अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने बारेमा उहाँले काम गरिरहनु भएको छ र त्यसको लागि अहिले धेरै कामहरू बाँकी छ। जस्ट यो स्टार्टिङ पोइन्ट हो, यहाँदेखि अगाडि बढ्नु निकै बाँकी छ र पनि हामी आशा गरौँ 2028 तिर त्यही अघि ओरायन जाँदैछ मङ्गल ग्रहमा मान्छे लिएर र त्यसपछि 2029-30 तिर या 30 भन्दा पछि 40 को बिचमा कतैतिर मान्छेहरू गएर चाहिँ त्यहाँ एउटा सानो सानो ग्रुपको रूपमा त्यहाँ बस्न सुरु गर्न पनि सक्छन्। त्यसको बारेमा रिसर्च हुँदैछ र उहाँले भन्नुभयो प्रत्येक 4 वर्षमा एकचोटि मान्छे त्यहाँ पठाउने सोच छ उहाँहरूको। 4 वर्षमा एकचोटि, किनभने जान र आउन नै 3 वर्ष लाग्छ र अर्को 1 वर्ष तयारी पनि गर्नको लागि लाग्ने हो। त्यसैले कम्तीमा 4 वर्षमा एकचोटिको दरले उहाँहरूले अगाडि प्रोग्रामलाई अगाडि बढाउँदै हुनुहुन्छ। र कतिजना भाइ बहिनीहरू मैले देखिरहेको छु, हामीले कति दुःख गरेर कति लगभग 1 वर्ष लगाएर उहाँहरूलाई कन्भिन्स गरेर यहाँ ल्यायौँ। भाइ बहिनीहरूले केही कुरा सिकुन्, आफ्नो भविष्य राम्रो बनाउन्, आफ्नो भविष्य राम्रो बनाउने क्रममा देश विकासमा पनि डाइरेक्ट वा इन्डाइरेक्ट योगदान पुर्याउन् भनेर। तर यो एउटा अचम्मको कुरो छ, सबैजना दायाँ र बायाँ हिँड्न थालेका छन् र एउटा सानो कथा छ नि कि एउटा मान्छे सधैँ दुखी थियो, एउटा बाटोमा हिँडिरहन्थ्यो, तर पार्वतीलाई साह्रै पीडा बोध भएर महादेवलाई भनेछन् कि यो मान्छे चाहिँ साह्रै दुखी छ, यसलाई चाहिँ सहयोग गर्नु पर्यो। भन्दाखेरि त्यो महादेवले भनेछन् कि यो मान्छेले सहयोग लिन सक्दैन, लिनै चाहँदैन, यसलाई कसरी दिने भनेपछि किन लिन चाहँदैन, दुखीले सहयोग पक्का लिन्छ ल दिनु पर्यो भनेपछि उसले भनेछन् ल यो मान्छे सधैँ यो बाटोबाट हिँड्छ, ल हेर म एउटा सुनको डल्लो झारिदिन्छु भनेर झारेछ। त्यो मान्छे सधैँ एउटा बाटो हिँड्ने मान्छेले के सोचेछ भने सुनको डल्लोको अलिकति नजिक पुगेपछि यत्रो वर्षौँदेखि यो बाटोमा हिँडिरहेको छु, अब त आँखा नहेरी पनि हिँड्न सक्छु, एकचोटि ट्राई गर्नु पऱ्यो भने आँखा चिम्लेर हिँडेर सुनको डल्लो नागेर गएछ अरे। त्यसैले अघि यो सुनको डल्लो आउने बेलामा चाहिँ सबै नागेर लाखापाखा हिँडे जस्तो नगरौँ। अब हाम्रो मेन एस्ट्रोनट बज एल्ड्रिन, डक्टर बज एल्ड्रिनले केही कुराहरू भन्दै हुनुहुन्छ र कसैलाई क्रस क्वेसन गर्नुपर्ने भएदेखि अहिलेसम्म अमेरिकामा करोडौँ मान्छे यस्ता छन्, विद्यार्थी यस्ता छन् जसले बज एल्ड्रिनको कुरो सुन्न पाएका छैनन् यसरी लाइभ। भनेपछि हामी धेरै सौभाग्यशाली हौँ। तर भाग्यमा छ भन्दैमा डोकोमा दुध दोहेर अड्दैन भने जस्तै भाग्यमा छ भन्दैमा यहाँ आएर उहाँले चाहिँ अवसर दिँदैमा हामीले लिन पनि सक्नु पर्यो। त्यस कारण भाइ बहिनीहरू एकदम ध्यान दिएर धैर्य धारण गरेर अब एकछिन उहाँका कुराहरू सुनौँ, जुन कुराले हामीलाई जिन्दगीभरि साइन्स, विज्ञान, प्रविधि र स्पेसको बारेमा सोच्न, आफ्नो भविष्यलाई त्यतापट्टि मोड्न, देशलाई समृद्धितिर अगाडि बढाउन निश्चित रूपमा ठुलो योगदान पुर्याउनेछ भन्ने मलाई लागेको छ। त्यसैले गर्दा यहाँलाई फेरि पनि म अनुरोध गर्दछु सबैजना एकैछिन शान्त भएर भाइ बहिनीहरू पनि आफ्नो आफ्नो पोजिसनमा बसेर सुन्नुहोस्। र अब भोलिदेखि म यो कुरा फेरि सुन्न मन लाग्यो भन्यो भनेदेखि त्यो समय यो जिन्दगीमा आउनेवाला छैन। यो जिन्दगीमा जम्मा तपाईँहरूले पाएको यो एउटा हुनसक्छ, अन्तिम अवसर पनि हुनसक्छ। त्यसैले ध्यान दिएर सुन्ने, नबुझेका कुराहरू क्वेसन गर्न पनि पाइन्छ, तर शिष्ट ढङ्गले गर्नुपर्छ क्वेसन र एकदम पोजिटिभ सकारात्मक सोचका साथ नबुझेका कुराहरू अगाडि राख्नुपर्छ। हाम्रोतिर कस्तो चलन छ भने हामीले धेरैवटा कार्यक्रम गऱ्यौँ, अलिक जान्नेले सिकाइरहन्छ यसो सोध्न भने यसो भन्यो भने त पक्का लडाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ त्यस्ता उटपटाङ क्वेसनहरू नआओस्। आफूले सिक्नको लागि, आफ्नो करियर बनाउनको लागि, जान्नको लागि जिज्ञासाहरू आओस् र उहाँले केही जिज्ञासाहरूको निश्चित रूपमा जवाफ दिनुहुनेछ। र यो अवसर फेरि आउला नआउला एकछिन ध्यान दिएर शान्त भएर सबैजनाले सुनिदिनु हुन हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्दछु। ल यो माइक म सन्जु सरलाई दिँदैछु।
धन्यवाद सर। Before I would like to call for the speech, I want to give a little briefing about our special guest, Mr. Buzz Aldrin. Ladies and gentlemen, along with Honorable Neil Armstrong, who was one of the 2 humans to walk on the moon, July 20, 1969. So you have to remember the date, July 20, 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I need a huge round of applause. For him, he born on January 20, 1930, Montclair, New Jersey. His father was a colonel in US Air Force, encouraged his interest in flight, and he became flight pilot and flew to Korean War. In 1963, he was selected by NASA for the next Gemini mission. In 1969, Aldrin, along with Neil Armstrong, made a history when they walked on the moon as a part of Apollo 11 mission. He worked later to develop the spacefaring technology and became an author, writing several scientific novels as well as children's books and the manner including Return to Earth in 1973. Ladies and gentlemen, magnificent desolation in 2009, No Dream is Too High, life lesson from a man who walked on the moon in 2016. Edwin Aldrin, a colonel in the US, his mother, Marion Moon, was the daughter of an army chaplain. As far as education concerned, he was graduated from Montclair High School, New Jersey, and headed towards US Military Academy, and graduated mechanical engineering in 1951. Now I would like to call, ladies and gentlemen, we rarely get this kind of opportunity to listen the words of a great personality like Mr. Buzz Aldrin. So let us have privilege of listening. Now I would like to invite Mr. Buzz Aldrin for a speech. Thank you very much.
Guidance is in 12, 11, 10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 miles per hour. Liftoff Apollo 11. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle back up and partially close that. Making sure not to lock it on my way out. That's our home for the next couple hours. We want to take good care of it. Beautiful view. Magnificent ventilation. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. Tranquility Base, you're clear for takeoff. Roger, understand. We'll go on up our way. We've come to the conclusion that this has been far more than 3 men on a voyage to the moon. More still than the efforts of a government and industry team. More even than the efforts of one nation. We feel that this stands as a symbol of the insatiable curiosity of all mankind to explore the unknown.
Hello, check out a new country. We had a wonderful day yesterday visiting Lumbini and Buddha's birthplace. And now I'm happy to be here with you today. Many people think that the future problems going to Mars will be the radiation in space. I feel a little differently about that, especially since I believe we will decide to send people to land and to stay there. That decision will be the most important decision in that person's life. They may possibly regret that decision after they are there. And that's why I believe that mental health of people in space is the most important factor to be concerned about. We have sent someone up to the space station for 1 year and other places for periods of time, but they always know when it's going to be over. And that makes a big difference. I'm concerned because my family has had to deal with some unexpected or anticipated mental health problems. My grandfather died early before I was born. My mother died a year before I went to the moon. I have experienced changes in my life, and I have had to deal with those mental health difficulties, just like our soldiers returning from combat have different situations in their life, and their suicide rate is way too high. I just read in your newspaper yesterday that the mental health concerns of your government about you people are now beginning to receive attention, and I hope that throughout the world these problems no longer become something to be ashamed about or to look down on another person. They are living life and adjusting things that may not be what you want them to do. Now, we're going to go back to the piece of papers. Timing is very important and has always been significant in my life. Blessed with having been in the right place at the right time, my education, a strong work ethic, a sense of adventure, and a supportive family were equally important. I am very proud to have served my country in the military, Air Force, and in the Apollo program. When people work together, they can sometimes accomplish the impossible. Apollo could never have been done without the cooperation and efforts of many people working together with a shared goal. Now consider this. Mankind has dreamed for centuries of reaching space, planets, even the stars. But it wasn't until the 20th century that man took to the air. In 1903, the Wright brothers took their first flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. My mother was born that same year. And I guess you could say pioneering was my destiny. Her maiden name was Moon. M-O-O-N, Moon. Neil, Mike, and I reached the moon only 66 years later, fulfilling the dreams of all mankind. I will share a little bit of the story of how we got there and how when we work together, the world can achieve the next impossible dream. I took my first flight at age 2 with my father, Edwin Eugene Aldrin. He was an engineer and an aviation pioneer, a friend of Charles Lindbergh and Orville Wright, and many others. This time, we flew in a Lockheed Vega single engine, painted red to look like an eagle, the symbol of our country, the call sign of the spacecraft we landed on the moon. Surrounded by the influence of aviation, I entered the Air Force after graduating 3rd in my class from the military academy at West Point. I had eagle eyes as a pilot, so I followed my aviator father's footsteps. Here I am during a photo opportunity with my father. He was in the Air Force also. This was when I received my wings. And you don't think the Air Force was going to let me fly him in the back seat. That was just to take pictures. My father was a civilian aviation fuel manager for a Standard Oil Company, where he directed the aviation division. He later became the manager of Newark Airport in New Jersey, where I grew up. He later worked as a consultant to the man's. Little did I know what I had started. Now I can't get away from him. The timing of crew rotation was just right for Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and me to be chosen as the crew for the first historic attempt to make a landing on the moon. The three of us had estimated a 60% chance of being able to successfully land without having to abort and come back home. But we believed, the engineers, that it was a 95% chance of coming back home safely. And we liked those odds. And as all of you know, the odds were with us on that day, and we safely landed on the surface of the moon. As I stepped out on the talcum-like surface of the moon, my first words were magnificent desolation. It was a magnificent accomplishment for humans, for humanity, to step on another world for the first time. And yet, there was the desolation. No air. The lunar landscape had no life. Just craters. Bright, black sky with the sun out, no stars. Total blackness beyond the sunlit horizon. Now this is a photograph that Neil took of me, known as the visor picture, because you can see the reflection, if you look carefully, you can see the reflection of the Eagle spacecraft and the photographer, Neil, in the visor. Now people have asked me why. This is such a perfect, iconic photograph. Why is it so great? Now, my answer is, I have 3 words. Desolation. I'm sorry. Location. Location. And location. Now, Neil had the camera most of the time. He was the boss. And my job was to set up experiments. But I did get a chance to take a couple of photos. The side of the spacecraft, any damage, the hole in the ground. But I did take this picture. It was just amazing, the imprint of the boot on the surface. So I took it before and an after. Now that kid over there, my son, he's taken thousands of pictures as a photography expert. And I only take a couple of pictures. It's usually, they take pictures of me. And he says, that's not thing for 3 guys, but for what we represented, that by a nation, the world coming together, we had accomplished the impossible. The true value of Apollo is the amazing story of innovation and teamwork that overcame many obstacles. We visited Stonehenge in England, and I sent a message up to the cosmos. Aside from my space efforts, I still have an adventuresome spirit today. I've been up to the North Pole with Hugh Downs in a Russian nuclear icebreaker. I've been down almost 4,000 meters, approximately 2 miles, to the ocean floor to see the Titanic and the French yellow submarine. My favorite thing to do on this planet is to scuba dive, and I try to do it at least a couple of times a year. Here I am on a trip to the Galapagos Islands in 2010. My son Andy took this picture of me hitching a ride on a whale shark. Don't try this, kids. Try this. I'm planning a trip finally to the South Pole later this year. You just never know where I'm going to be in the world. Here I am in the wall. Oh. If you're interested in keeping up with my activities, I'll be putting updates on my website at www.buzzaldrin.com. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. Twitter at The Real Buzz. Not any of this Buzz Lightyear stuff. My newest book, No Dream is Too High. Lessons from a Man Who Walked on the Moon. Humanity needs to explore, to push beyond our current limits, just like we did in 1969. Apollo was a story of people at their very best. We started with a dream, and we did the impossible. I know, because I'm living proof, and I believe the impossible can be done once more. Let's go for it. Thank you very much.
Yes, please be seated. भाइ बहिनीले एकैछिन बस्नुहोस्। अब तपाईहरुलाई म केही सानो जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। सबभन्दा पहिले त हाम्रो एस्ट्रोनट बजले आफ्ना साहसिक चन्द्र यात्राको बारेमा बताउनु भयो र अब एकैछिन तपाईहरु ध्यान दिएर सुन्नु होला। यसपछि उहाँ सिधै एयरपोर्ट जाँदै हुनुहुन्छ। त्यसैले तपाईहरुले आफ्नो ठाउँबाट उहाँ यताबाट हिँड्दाखेरि ताली बजाएर स्वागत गर्नु होला, सम्मान देखाउनु होला। उहाँलाई देखाउने सम्मान डाक्टर बज एल्ड्रिन एस्ट्रोनटलाई मात्रै होइन, यो नेपालले अमेरिकालाई देखाउने सम्मान जस्तै हो। यो हामी सबैले साइन्स टेक्नोलोजीमा आफ्नो जीवन अर्पण गर्ने मान्छेहरूलाई गर्ने सम्मान जस्तै हो। त्यसैले यो कुरालाई एकैछिन सिरियसली सुनिदिनु होला र अघि उहाँले भन्नुभएको कुराको अलिकति म नेपालीमा ट्रान्सलेसन गराउन चाहन्छु। उहाँहरू 1969 मा आजभन्दा 46 वर्ष अगाडि चन्द्रमामा पुग्नुभएको थियो र चन्द्रमामा पुगेपछि 2 घण्टा 15 मिनट उहाँहरूले चन्द्रमामा भएका स्याम्पलहरूलाई उठाएर लिएर आउनुभएको थियो र उहाँको साथी नील आर्मस्ट्रङसँग उहाँ जानुभएको थियो चन्द्रमामा। त्यसका बारेमा उहाँले आफ्ना अनुभवहरू सेयर गर्नुभयो र अब मङ्गल ग्रहमा पनि जान सकिन्छ र त्यहाँ पनि मान्छे पुर्याउन सकिन्छ भन्ने उहाँको सपना अनुसार उहाँका छोरा अगाडि बढिराख्नु भएको छ। त्यसैले हामीले यस्ता महापुरुष फेरि यस ठाउँमा भेट्न पाउँला नपाउँला, त्यसैले हामीले उहाँलाई धन्यवाद सम्मान दिनको लागि एकैछिन भाइ बहिनीहरू दायाँ बायाँ नदौडिकन आफ्नो ठाउँमा उभिएर ताली बजाएर स्वागत गर्नुहोला, सम्मान गर्नुहोला। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much.